what is the purpose of a label in 2024 and beyond? See, the game has completely changed, and a lot of artists are still operating by the old rules and don't understand the new world we're living in. And what if I told you that if we didn't focus on the right things, that seeking the approval and attention of labels was actually a guarantee that we would fail? Ask me how I know, because I tried it twice. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 things that you need to understand about the past, present, and future of why labels are dying and what to do about it. So the first thing that we really need to understand is that labels have made this shift in what they do for artists, okay? Back in the day, labels would play a huge role in artist and development, okay? So what an artist would do a lot of times is play a lot of shows in their local area, try to play as many shows around the country, play showcases, travel to the states that, the big labels were located at, their headquarters were at, and where they knew a bunch of agents were. And they would try to get this approval from labels, because if they could get signed by a label, there was a team of people that was going to cultivate that artist. I want you to think back of an artist like U2. A lot of people don't know this, but U2 had 4 records that came out before they ever blew up, and those 4 records went nowhere. And if you go back and listen to them, you could hear the growth and development that was starting to take place within that band, album after album, because there was someone there in the industry to help them along the way. That is not the role of a label today. And that's the thing. A lot of artists still have this vision like they're going to get treated like U2 did, where they're going to get together, their first album's going to be good, but then they're going to get the help from the team, and then as they get bigger and bigger, they're going to become these giant mega superstars. And that's just not the case anymore, because labels do not have the same profits that they were generating back in those days. Streaming has all but wiped it completely out. So what we need to understand is that labels don't do the artist and development thing like they used to. Some labels may claim to do that for artists, but we're going to get into why that's not exactly all it seems. So there's a high threshold nowadays for labels to start to work with artists. Why? Because they've gone from artist and development into venture capital, okay? So what does that mean? Picture the sharks on Shark Tank. If you go watch those, the businesses that do well are the people that know their numbers. What does that mean to know your numbers? You know how well your business is performing, and they can tell them, yeah, we've generated this much in sales, we've sold this, and if those numbers are good, there's already a pre-existing business there, then people like the sharks are willing to invest in the company. Now, if you look at a musician, it's the same kind of thing. Labels are the sharks, and artists are trying to be the people that get in front of the label and go, here's why you should invest in our music business. And then they do a little presentation, they do a bow, and all the investors go, well, we'll give you $100,000 for blah, 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 blah. That's kind of what they wish it would be like, but really it's more like, yeah, we're going to own 85% to 99% of your music business, and you can keep 1%. How many businesses do you think would be taking those deals if those were the offers they were getting on Shark Tank? Probably not very many, right? But that's essentially what a lot of labels have done to artists. And a lot of the up-and-coming labels, sorry to pick on y'all, because I know there's some good ones out there that really try to put effort into cultivating their artists. There's a ton of them out there that could care less about cultivation. They just take the money and they give people false hopes. I've told you I've worked with 2 record labels in the past, and even though I have a good relationship still with one of those labels, I still don't like the industry practices as a whole. And that's the thing, is because you start to get into the nitty-gritty and you see that artists who are still focused on trying to get this artist and development side of the label thing going, they end up getting focused on the wrong things. That's the biggest issue. You're focusing when you're like, how do I get the approval of a label? How do I get them to see me and notice me? I guarantee if we put as much effort into getting seen by labels as we did to be getting seen by our dream fans, this wouldn't even be an issue to begin with. Because that takes me to point number 2, is because everybody is focused on the wrong things, that's what's preventing them from actually getting progress and seeing success inside of their music business. And what I believe, I call this the linchpin inside of the music business that's going to happen, is what you do is you look at the industry and how it's evolved to be more decentralized. right? And what that means is the power is now in your hands and in my hands. So that begs the question, with all the technology we've been given over the past 10, 15 years, or even 20 years, the question begs, if I can learn to build my music business, if I can learn those skills to the point where a label is interested in investing in me, why do I need the label in the first place? I want you to think about that. If you've built your skill set in your music business enough to the point where a label's like, hey, you're doing well, you're making some money, you're getting some views, maybe we could do a little bit of a partnership or something. That shows you that you have all the leverage. They're the one that wants a piece of your pie. Instead, a lot of artists have this perspective that they're trying to get a piece of the label's pie, and everything is all out of order. The leverage is completely backwards, and the labels typically take advantage of the younger artists. But if the younger artists can develop their music business to the point where they actually are making money, to the point where a label wants to invest in them, they don't need them anymore. Because I want you to think about it. How much information is out there right now in regards to how to succeed in your music business? Gosh, there's hours worth of content just on this page alone about how to do stuff inside of your music business from whatever. But there's so much info out there. So I don't think most of the problems that musicians are running into is that they don't have enough information. And I think a lot of musicians are struggling with that because they just feel like, I just don't know enough. I just don't know enough. And I bet if we sat down and I told you what was required in this business, you would be like, oh, well, I can do that. It's like, oh, well, why haven't you been? And that's where the issue comes in. The issue is not information. Most artists, hey, if you're new to the business and you don't have the information, that's okay. There's plenty of it here on this channel and all across the internet about the music business. So once you get the information, the key pivotal thing here is you have to take action on it. You have to implement the information or it becomes obsolete and irrelevant, basically. Because if you're not using the knowledge, your brain, think about it like this. Your brain is like a stage, okay? You can only fit so many musicians on the stage before, if you want to put another person in there, you got to kick one off. And those are the things that you can remember and hold in your brain, right? And so if you're storing up a bunch of information, but you're not acting on it, you're filling up the stage with players, but no one's actually playing any music. Does that make sense? Most people are just storing their heads full of information. Instead, what I would like you to do, whether it's with the content you see in this video, any of my videos, or any of the books, courses, whatever you happen to go through from here on out, promise yourself one thing. Don't promise me. Promise yourself one thing. For every golden nugget piece of information that you learn, you implement it as fast as humanly possible. Because that is ultimately what's going to give you an edge over all the other musicians out there that are dragging their feet and complaining about the fact they have to create content and feeling entitled about why doesn't everyone love my music even though I don't put very much thought into my marketing except what I think is cool. It's like, I think you've answered your own question. But so we need to understand that implementation is where we get our results. And so it's okay to get a lot of information. That's okay. Don't feel bad for, I'm someone who has to constantly get new information because I'm helping communicate what the changes that are happening in this music business to my clients and to you on YouTube. So I have to be constantly taking in information. But the thing is I have to implement, and you have to implement this information for it to actually stick with us. You would be surprised how much you can integrate. It's almost like the more you implement knowledge and the knowledge becomes a form of muscle memory, the bigger the stage gets. You're able to do more. Now, you're not able to necessarily remember more, but I'm saying you can do more than you think you can do. But it takes the implementation consistently. So people are like, I'm not very good at content. I don't have very many views. I'm like, that's okay. If you've only been posting content for a few months, and you're not seeing results, that is normal. That is normal, y'all. Do not beat yourself up about that because it takes a while to get really good at something. How long did it take you to get good at music? right? And if it took you 5 seconds to get good at music, you're either a prodigy or you're not as good as you think you are. So that's just the reality. But like, how much time did it take for you to actually learn music? Took you a while, right? But once you started getting the hang of it, you notice you would see more progress, more progress, more progress. It's the same thing with every element of your music business. Whether that's content, whether that's advertising, whether that's live shows, whether it's selling things, it doesn't matter. The more you implement and the more you do, the better you will get at it. But if you just keep it all up here and you don't actually do anything, nothing will happen. And your music business won't grow, and then what the hell? What's the point? So make sure if you implement that information, I guarantee you're actually going to start to see results, or you're going to get data that shows you what's not working. That's honestly been as helpful, if not more helpful for me, is figuring out what doesn't work and then not doing that. That gets you further than doing the right things, is just not doing the wrong things. Funny how that works. Now, I want to sort of paint a vision for you that I've hopefully kind of alluded to throughout this video, which is that labels' roles have changed. They're going from artist in development and they're moving now more into venture capital, which means they're not involved in the startup phase of your music business. They're not involved in that whole process where you're still trying to figure out your sound and who you're getting your music out to, who's my dream fan, who's my market that I'm trying to play for, and what's my brand, and they're not helping you with that. That's something you and I have to figure out on our own inside of our music business. But I guarantee this is something like I have full faith in, 100%, is if artists commit to either getting the right information or once they've got the right information, implementing it, they will start to get results in their music business to the point where they won't need a label. The whole idea of I need a label so I can build my music career will eventually vanish into the past. And that's what we need to strive for, is this striving to not need a label, period. And that's kind of where we're trying to move, even though the labels are fighting like hell to make sure that they stay relevant. That's why they bought shares in Spotify and all these other kind of things. So we have to look at the future now. So if we understand that labels are changing and that artists have the ability to build their music business on their own, look at a Nick D, look at a Forrest Frank or a Connor Price, we have to be able to look to the future and say, what are labels going to evolve into? And how do we prepare for that? And what do we do with the future? Okay, so let's dive into the first point. Labels. What will happen is one of two things. One, labels will continue to operate the business model, especially the lower tier labels, will continue to operate this business model until it's absolutely obsolete, which means they will fundamentally turn into scams if you can't already call them that now. I'll tell you, one of the labels I worked with that I don't have the best relationship with, the label executive in a intoxicated rant told me that he had an insider in the radio business who would juice his artist stats for a fee. And then it kind of like dawned on me, oh, that's what you did to me. You don't realize you're telling, just because he was talking about somebody else, he was describing doing it to another artist, but it inadvertently told me what he did to us. And it just shows you that the labels know their business model doesn't work. So they have to jerk the artist around at every turn, like, hey, you should invest in a radio campaign. Yeah, I think a solid radio campaign would be like $8,000 and yada, yada, yada. And they go down that traditional rabbit hole that costs a lot of money but gets you nowhere. I think if you look at historic media or traditional media, I shouldn't call it historic, but traditional media, television, radio, those things are so expensive. And there's all these things within those markets where they like to justify this and say, well, we get access to so many people. We get access to millions and millions and millions of people. I'm like, yeah, but that's a relative thing. You're saying, oh, we get access to millions and millions of people. You can get access to millions and millions of people without paying the prices that you pay for radio and television. I had a business that they're friends of ours who run this pizza shop, and they came to us, or came to me to help with their advertising and figure it out. And I asked, like, so what have you spent on advertising? And they told me that they spent, I'm not going to say it out loud just because I don't want to, I don't want to add fire to it for them, but they spent 5 figures or more on television ads that did nothing. Nothing. Can you imagine spending $10,000 or more on something for it to do nothing? Well, that's what we did with radio campaigns, and that's what labels will continue to do. That's one side of it. So you have the labels that have no soul and will continue to extract as much money from artists doing the same old business model that doesn't work. They know it doesn't work, but they just kind of keep going until the industry completely bottoms out, or that niche of the industry completely bottoms out. Or B, they will stop becoming labels and they will just become marketing agencies. So what's popping up now are marketing agencies, people that will film videos for you, edit videos. So it's kind of funny. Labels are going to be reduced fundamentally to marketing agencies. So labels are going to eventually evolve to where they're not really involved in the record business or the music business, but they're involved in the marketing side of the music business. And then their label services are a back-end program that they're going to offer where it's like we invest more marketing efforts into you. Basically, the label structure will stay, but it will turn into a back-end offer where the front-end offer will be the marketing agency. So they'll front-end offer, hey, here's how we market you, and then at the end, they'll try to get you signed up with a record deal where they take a percentage and all that kind of stuff. So we just have to kind of be on the lookout for that, because I'm not against marketing agencies or consultants or whoever to help you grow your music business. But what I am weary about for the future is once labels smarten up and realize that they've got to change the model that they've been operating on, they're going to seep into these existing models, and they'll either coexist with the ecosystems of these markets like marketing agencies, or they will parasitize it and morph it into something we don't like. And so the existing marketing agencies, in my opinion, have a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? An obligation or a responsibility, moreover, to set up the industry standards in such a way that when labels finally start to infiltrate their market, the standards and practices are set in such a way to prevent that kind of predatory behavior. If that makes sense, hopefully. I know I said that kind of fast, but basically we need the marketing agencies now to put in safeguards so that when the labels infiltrate, there's protections for the artist and for the industry as a whole. Because if the labels parasitize the marketing agency business, then it could ruin that business altogether. They have a tendency to do that. You know, it's like you got that one promoter in the local area that always buys venues and then they're closed 3-6 months later. And then they buy another one and the same thing happens. You're like, stop touching things. It's like Joe and Family Guy. Peter, stop doing what you're doing. Just please stop. But anyway, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video and you understand sort of the future of where the music business needs to be heading for us. Like, what do we need to be doing right now? We need to be getting the right information. We need to be learning how the music business works and how we can utilize it as independent artists and entrepreneurs. Tons of videos here on this channel. Check them out if you haven't seen them, which leads me into this. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you got a lot of value from this. And I hope you guys make sure to check out other videos, because if you haven't got the right information yet and you feel like you're still unclear about what the strategies are, check out a few of these videos. I guarantee they're going to help you out. But then also we need to start implementing this information, right? We need to take the information that we learn and start putting action to it. So a little call to action that I have for you guys is whatever information that you learn, whether it's from me, a book you're reading, a course you're taking, do the implementation as fast as humanly possible. Get to implementing, and some people, that's why people say fail fast. That means I implemented quick enough to fail fast. Because how do you know if you're really implementing something? If you fail. Because if you've never failed, I doubt you're actually implementing very seriously. Because it's just the truth. We all fail while we're trying to get to the place where we're succeeding. You're not going to get to a place where you succeed with no failure. It's just not going to happen. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you need some help implementing the information that you've already been learning, maybe you've been learning some information for a few years now, and you're just figuring out, how do I implement this, and you need some help with it, hit the link that's in the description. There's a way you can apply to a coaching call to work with us potentially to help you with your music business. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to click the link in the description. Otherwise, I will see you guys on another video inside of Musicians Ignite. Take care.